All right, welcome to our call that we're doing tonight. Lindsay and I were going to do this call. We had this planned. We want to start implementing these power hours. I think these are so important because as whether you're new or you've been here a while, I think sometimes like I know I'm in this season and I want to share a couple things with you guys, but I'm in this season where it's like I'm coming out of not working for like 2 to 3 months, and it feels weird. It feels weird when you almost like feel like a fish out of water, and maybe you're new and you don't know the steps and you're just not sure like what does she do when she's working, or like what does a work hour block look like. And so I think this is so good for all of us, no matter where we are in our business, because a lot of times we make excuses, right? We're not intentional with our time and we don't use it effectively to where we can actually fit this in with our day very easily, but we just need to be intentional. And sometimes it's just like knocking it out together that I think is really helpful. So, I kind of want to like start with just a brief like thought. I like to kind of set a little bit of mindset work here before we dig in, because I think it's such an incredible thing that we're doing. It's a beautiful space that we're in, and I hope you guys, I feel like I know you guys feel that. The momentum is still incredible. We developed a massive team in 6 months. And we did that in such a short amount of time. And like, just think where we can be in 6 more months. And, you know, briefly, I just want to talk about like just my stepping away and kind of coming back in, and how, I've been doing this for so long, but it's just like, I came back in and it was like, I questioned myself. I didn't question the products or the business, but I questioned myself because now my story no longer was CBD allowed me to get off of my medicine. That was no longer my story. I mean, it was a part of my story, but now it wasn't. And it felt weird. It felt like, who's going to buy these products when I'm over here taking a pharmaceutical now? Like, they're going to think, like, do these products even work? Right. And, and that's just my imposter syndrome and just doubting and just, a story in my head. But my point in saying that is we're going to come across things in our life that are going to knock us off, and it's going to kind of affect the way that we show up and the way that we feel about our business and our vision for this. And I want you to kind of, I want you to not let the messy parts keep you stuck, right? And use it as your superpower and use it as like your comeback. And that's so important for us to kind of reevaluate. And so here I am in this space of sort of reevaluating um myself and what I can share, and I have so much value, right? And it's until we believe that we have so much value, we're not going to actually be able to share, right, in the best way. If we're sitting here and we think, I don't have value, I'm not good at sales, I can't do this, I'm busy, I'm this, whatever, then we're not going to develop and we're not going to come into fruition of what this business can offer us, right? So I invite you to just be messy. I invite you to share the things that, like today, I shared about collagen. Do you want to know when that's one of the handful of times that I've shared about collagen? Um, I was not consistent with it when I first started. And I was more focused on the CBD rather than the collagen. So yesterday, I was like, I got to figure out some points. And I mean, I'm not proud of this that I'm sitting here saying this as a leader, as a top leader in the company, but it's just the fact of the matter. I didn't know, I couldn't fluently talk about the collagen like the back of my hand like I could the CBD, right? And that's okay, but I need to change that story, and I need to get better. And now that I'm incorporating it into my life, it's a perfect time to learn about it. So here I was studying up, doing my best, not knowing exactly all the things, but I didn't need to know all the things. I just needed to know some of them, right? So I want you to think about that as you share. We don't need, I think it becomes overwhelming as we get started in our work block because it feels like there's so much. It's like, okay, if I have to do stories and I have to do a post and I have to message people and I have to interact and I have to, then we're just like, okay, I'm out. I'm out because that's a lot and I only have 15 minutes or whatever. And so let's just show up a little bit. Let's just show up a little bit and let's gain confidence and excitement, and then let's build on that, right? Because we're not just going to get here all of a sudden. We got to go through the steps to get to, where we want to be. And so I want you guys to think about this week as you think about that this week as you go into the week and you kind of refresh your excitement and your mindset about what you have to offer. And I want you to drop, just for fun, I want you to rate yourself. This isn't judging yourself. This isn't like picking yourself apart or anything, but I want you to rate yourself on an intentional scale. Okay. So, like, rate your intention from a scale from 1 to 10, how it's been. Okay. How intentional, I didn't word that very well. How intentional have you been with your business on a scale from 1 to 10? How intentional have you been? And I'm asking you that because it's not about the hustle, right? I think if we change like the hustle idea into intention, we don't have to hustle so hard if the intention is there. And if we're more intentional, and I'm going to talk about that as we go and work here, but if we're more intentional and it's like, okay, I made a list, I wrote down 3 things, I can't do it all, but I can do these 3 things. So I'm going to knock it out. That's what you're going to feel when you knock it out and you didn't create this huge list and we didn't focus on this. I think trackers are fantastic, but if you're focusing on this big business activity tracker and there's 17 things to do each day, you're going to feel discouraged and it's not practical. Okay. Yeah. I can work my business from home and I work it full time, but I don't get it all done. And maybe that's not being intentional. Maybe that's poor time management. But my point is, like, we can all work better to work on the intentional, right? But let's think about that as we move into this week and we're like, okay, how can I be more intentional so that I'm more effective and my time is spent wisely, but I'm not having to hustle as much, or it doesn't feel as daunting if we're like not hustling as much, but we're just kind of showing up in the best way we can and knocking it out. Okay, so nothing's set in stone, right? Have fun with this. Sometimes things work and sometimes they don't. And it's okay. And I think we take ourselves so serious because we're like, oh, I posted and it didn't go. Or, oh, I sent a message and someone didn't want to do it. Or I asked this person this and whatever. Well, guess what? That's the nature of this beast. And you got to get really good at hearing no and combating objections and being thick-skinned, and you'll get there. It's just a matter of like, who are we going to reach? What kind of energy are we going to transfer? And like, who can we help? Right. And y'all are here and we have a really large team and we have all these new people coming in as advocates and as PCs. We know that this product is remarkable. We know it. Like, we don't have to question that. We only have to just show up and share it until that right person comes along. And trust me, they will. So we're going to dive in first to the hardest part of the business in the band, like the glue to the business, but we're going to rip the Band-Aid off and we're going to do it. So we're going to actually work on some invitations right now. And we're doing this first because it's the thing that you want to put off the most, because it's the hard questions. I'm going to ask you, it's not hard. It's like asking someone for coffee. Do you want coffee? And if they say no, then you say, okay, that's fine. Like, I can check back with you and ask you if you want coffee again later on, like a waitress does. Or, maybe you're not interested and that's okay too, but I'm going to continue showing up and I'm going to continue showing exposure after exposure. And guess what that's going to do? It's going to inspire someone because you're going to hit them on a day. Like, we do ourselves a disadvantage when we don't show up, because there are people sitting there today that are frustrated, that are struggling, that are whatever it is, right? And if your message doesn't come across them today, they'll sit there and they'll be discouraged. And next week or 3 weeks from now, when you decide you're going to restart your business and you're going to get your stuff together and start going, they might have already moved on, right? They might have bought another product. So anyways, just think about that as we show up. And I really I'm going to share this tomorrow on my stories. I'm going to share about the business a little, and I'm going to share that piece. I've been saying this, and I know Lindsay said this the other day, but I've been sharing that piece of like, I don't want something from you. I want something for you. And I just think it sticks out because it's so important for people to know that, like, when we're selling something, and I think I could go on a whole tangent about sales, but it was like I thought I had a conversation today with someone and they said, "You're really good at sales." I'm like, "Yeah, I am good at sales." Like, but I still doubt myself sometimes. But why do we sometimes think that sales is a bad thing? But it's like you can be really good at that. And that's a really good thing. But you're serving, right? You're still serving when you're selling. But it's not that we want something from them, we want something for them. And so I want you to think about that too as you shift into the mindset of sharing this week. So let's go ahead and do some invites, okay? If we don't ask, we're not going to get the yes, right? We're never going to get the yes. Um, and we're going to get good at this. And this is going to also come from you showing up. Like you've got to show up and post and share content and share stories and share your life because that's where a lot of your invitations are going to come from. We don't just grab the invitations from the sky, right? And have all these people just showing up at our table. Like we've got to kind of show up here so that we're getting more people to open the door and it's easier to have the conversations and to ask the question. Um, so like today, for example, I did a reel and it was like talking about my journey with anxiety and then it was talking about my wellness routine and I said comment, start if you want to hear about my wellness routine. And it was like really simple then to reach out to those people and send voice clips and say, "Hey, like do you like it's CBD, that's my routine and I'd love to share it with you. The first thing I need to know though is, how do you feel about THC? Are you someone who gets drug tested?" That's the first question I need to know before I can help anybody because it's going to point in the direction of what we need to like help them with, right? So maybe you have a post you just did. Maybe you're looking off of your stories. Maybe you're just have five family members, friends that you are like, I haven't asked them, but I think they would like this and they need this. And I want them to try it because it's helped me so much, right? So you can easily send, and I'll type something up in the chat here so you guys have like an example of something I would say. Now, this is going to be kind of generic because it's me trying to create an invitation for you and I'm not you. So if I were to do this, I would probably do it maybe slightly different because it would sound like me. So I want you to don't be afraid to switch it up. But the biggest thing advice I could give you is if you are sending a message, it's good to just be direct, you know, maybe drop a couple nuggets and then ask the question, right? And it's really simple and it's really effective, in my opinion, from my experience. So what we're going to do is I want you guys to ask questions if you have them. I'm going to mute myself. I'm going to type up an invitation here in the chat, and then you guys feel free to unmute and ask a question, type it in the chat and ask me. We're going to like set a timer for like 10 minutes. And because I have like 4 assignments for us. And we're already 15 minutes in. So I'm trying to kind of keep it. And then whatever you don't get done, you'll just be able to continue this tonight after we get off or tomorrow. But this will just give you some groundwork to kind of work off of. Okay, so I'm going to hit mute. I'm going to send you an invitation on the chat and you guys feel free to copy it, tweak it, and ask anything that I can be of help to you in this process.
Tabitha, it's Ann. Hi. One question that I have here, if you want to see my face, I just got out of the hot tub, so I look like. One question that I have is I struggle and spend so much time because I'm not real social media techie savvy, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it. And I spend so much time trying to figure out the logistics of doing some of these things that I get sucked into a rabbit hole. Any advice with that?
Yeah. So that's a good question. I think I mean, we can overthink this and we can look and we can gauge. It's like I could go on my Instagram, and if I'm trying to gain traction and followers and this and that, I can go investigate this person, and there's so many things you can go down. But if we think about income producing activities, that's not going to be one of those. Now, it's not a bad idea sometimes to just take some time to kind of do that here and there, depending on where you are in your business and what your kind of goal is for that day or that intentional time in your business that you're setting aside. But I would say, just done is better than perfect. And as you go and as you grow, you can tweak things, and you can kind of just take note of what's working, what's not. I have a lot of advice, I feel like, or perspective, I should say, on posting. Just the way that I guess I've taught this for a long time, just the way that you kind of post to create like a hook, and then you share a bit of your story, and then you tie it all in with like maybe like a call to action. I think it's so important to kind of like think of a pain point, not always a pain point, but sometimes, as the hook, and then go into your story, and then maybe do a call to action at the end, or add a value at the end, and then do a call to action, or just add value at the end and leave it there, right? Because we're just dropping nuggets for people. Um, so it's there's a lot of things. Social media really truly is kind of a monster. And I don't say that to be negative, but it's a lot, right? If we make it that. But you can also come on, share your heart, be authentic, and share it in your own way. And I think we get caught up in being like, we need to do it this way and it needs to go this way. And like for years I built my business and I just showed up, and I didn't know what I was always doing, but I just showed up as me, and I shared my story, and I shared the things that I felt like people needed to hear, or the things that people didn't say but wanted to hear. So I shared those things. And I think that's really something that you can do instead of worrying about all the other stuff. Just head down, right? Laser focus, and just knock it out, and put something out there, and then grow on that and build on it as you go.
That makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Because yeah, it's
You'll gain confidence, and that's just part of it. Unfortunately, is just kind of finding your way, and just navigating through that. And if you've never done it before, it's gonna feel that way. And so don't feel, we all started, we all had to start somewhere, and I started there too. And so just kind of take notes as you can, and maybe duplicate what you're seeing as maybe working for people, make it your own, and then keep going, keep learning.
okay. I'm trying. Thank you.
Okay, let me get this typed up for you guys, but feel free to unmute if you have anything else. Okay, so this is just one example of like a way that you can, and this kind of is a reach out where there's not a lot more to talk about. Like sometimes it's easier, right? If you're like, oh, I saw your post about X, Y, and Z, and like I'd love to share, Green Compass with you because blah, blah, blah. But where we're just reaching out to someone, it's kind of like generic. This is kind of the route that I would use. But again, you can kind of, because in this message they're like, oh, sleep, I can't sleep to save my life, or they're like, oh, I'm having so much back pain or something like that. It might trigger just naming a few examples, and then like saying what it's helped me with briefly, but change that of course to whatever you feel like is you. um but a lot of invite, so this is an invite that doesn't come as easy because you're kind of having to dig for it or reach for it. But the other invites where you have a connection with them, or you've posted something and they've asked or something, those are just a lot easier. But this is kind of a generic one that you can use, tweak, and kind of make it your own. But I like to end in a question, and I don't like to give them, I don't need to give them a whole story. I just need to give them some short, direct, put it out there. And the thing with posting and the thing with continuing to be consistent is that as they see your posts, right? They might not answer you. Maybe they're going to ghost you, and that's okay. That's going to happen. But they're going to continue to see your posts, and it's going to just be that exposure after exposure after exposure. And it's not going to come out of nowhere if you've been posting, if you've been sharing, right? It's not going to come out of nowhere because I'm gonna be like, yeah, I saw you sharing about that or whatever. Yeah, that sounds interesting or blah, blah, blah. So that's why sharing and continuing that consistency of that piece is so key, because then it just doesn't come out of left field. You're not just sitting here like sending a bunch of invites and nobody knows what you're doing. Um, Even though some people might not know what you're doing because they miss it on the algorithm, right? Because it didn't show them. So I mean, there's that too. But okay, so let's give like another few minutes, like 5 minutes. Send a couple, and I want to know in the chat. Try to send, if you can, try to send like at least 3 to 5. Okay, I would love to know how many you get here in 5 minutes, like how many you've sent. And it's not a race or anything. I just would love to know how many you guys got out there. Okay, so I want to go into the next thing just because I want to get this to you out to you guys so that you can build on this week and continue. So kind of bookmark where you left off, and when we get off, maybe work on a couple more invites, okay? To get those out there. I would love to know how many you got out, and it's okay if you didn't, get much done. That's okay. Um Hopefully that gave you some insight and inspired you to just kind of be bold and reach out. So the next thing I want to talk about is the content for this week. So this is the other piece I think that's so can feel daunting or overwhelming or discouraging. And I don't want you to feel that way. So I want to kind of brainstorm I want you to think about brainstorming what you want to share in your stories, what kind of posts. So let's think about the stories that you might want to share tonight, okay? And no pressure, because like maybe tonight, but like why not just throw up a couple things tonight, right? And what do you want that to be? And when we think about sharing something, it's kind of like if you think about, and I've kind of this is kind of what I've done as I've been strategic about social media or try to. It's like whatever I'm going to share tonight, maybe I'm just going to do a couple stories on like my business tonight about the business. But then tomorrow I'm going to talk about the business and I'm going to layer that in again, right? Because we can't just share one time about one thing and expect them to want to do what we're saying, right? So we have to kind of layer this in, and and you don't have to have this perfect, okay? That's not the idea either. It's just the idea that we're going to kind of layer this in and we're going to think about, okay, if I share this, then what would it look like tomorrow? And then how can I build on that as I go, right? So that way it kind of flows. And then let's also think, and this is going to be kind of some brainstorming you're going to do for a few minutes here, is you're going to brainstorm, okay, maybe it's just a product. Maybe CBDA is your jam, and you are like, this is gold. And I want people to know because it has helped me with whatever. Okay. Let's talk about it. Let's just talk about it. Let's just maybe put a couple slides up about CBDA. And then maybe tomorrow you're going to be brave and courageous and you're going to actually talk about it, because I'm going to tell you right now that people don't just, you can share a story all day long of your product. And I have a decent following, and I don't just get people like punching my link and purchasing. Like I get it some, but I don't get it like you might think. Okay. Because I got to get on there and I got to talk about it because it's my energy and my excitement and my like passion about what we're doing here is what's going to sell it and get them to want to try it, right? So how can we do that? So that's why if you do story slides, that's fantastic, but then we got to follow that up with something so that they know why would they want that, right? I know the slide says it, but they want to know, they might want to know more, and what's it help you with? So think about that. So maybe tonight you're going to put a couple stories up. Think about what you'll put up tomorrow. Think about a post, okay? Think about what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about the products. Maybe it's your story, maybe it's just your holistic lifestyle that you're trying to lean into. Maybe it's your business, right? I know sometimes it can feel hard to share about the business if you haven't really been diving in and sharing a lot about the products. So if that's overwhelming, just share about the products. And then we want to incorporate the business and sprinkle that in when we can. So you have content inside of you for days, all of it. Like repurpose it, recycle it, share your story, continue layering it in. Like you don't need anything else. It's just kind of organizing it and deciding, what am I going to share today? What am I going to share tomorrow? What am I going to share, that next day? And I don't even know. I couldn't tell you what I'm sharing tomorrow. Because I just fly by the seat of my pants, and I'm not telling you that that's what you should do, but I'm telling you that you don't need to have a plan. Okay. You don't need to be super organized. It's just like, what's on my heart? Okay. I'm going to share that. And then tomorrow it's like, what nugget could I drop that could be really helpful for someone? And I don't know if it's going to be helpful, but I'm going to share it because I just don't know until I share it. And so I'm going to go for it. Right. It's the taking the action behind the content and sharing, that's gonna get you to move forward in your business. Do you think that posts or stories on social gain more traction? Yes, I think I love stories. Like I think stories are great, but you not everybody watches them. So that's where you got to come in and follow up with the posts. So just because your stories aren't getting much doesn't mean, it's hard to say. It just depends, I think, on several things. But I think a combination of both and getting in the habit of just making sure that you kind of cover your bases. And that's what I like to think about it with social media. It's like, how can I cover my bases, right? There's people that watch stories and there's people that are never going to watch my stories because I don't know, they just aren't going to watch them. And then there's people that are more into posts on if we're talking Facebook. Now, Instagram, yes, like Rachel says, like posts are for new people. Now, Facebook, you're not really gonna, I'm not saying you're not gonna gain followers on Facebook because you can. I just have never really grown in that area personally, but I know there is a way to do that. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of just one of those things to kind of just keep throwing it out there and messing with it and gaining confidence with it. So I want you guys to think about one nugget, one thing you could share tonight. And maybe it's literally just like maybe you're going to get off here and you're going to talk on your stories about, I'm just throwing this out there as an example. You're going to talk on your stories about the support that you've received from your business because you just got off of a call that literally walked you through how to work, like how to actually show up and what to do. Maybe that's really speaking to you and helpful, and maybe you think that would be good. Or maybe you just want to get off of here and you just want to talk about CBD in general and give a little bit of information. So think about that and then think about what you want to share tomorrow and think about a post, and it can be different things. I like to share more, like, I don't know how to explain it. On posts, it's like you're kind of sharing, it's different because you're typing it all out. So it's a little bit different, but it's still similar. It's like, what do you want to put out there? So think about that. I would love to know what your focus is. Let's give like 5 minutes and think about this. And feel free to unmute or ask anything.
Hey, Tabitha, this is Dawn. Hello.
Hi there.
Hey, I wanted to ask a question about how you pronounce endocannabinoid. Is that correct?
Endocannabinoid. So it's like,
Endocannabinoid.
yes, if
Okay.
you think about just the cannabinoids in our body and then add the endo. So cannabinoids and then add the endo. That's what I kind of had to do because I think I called them, I don't even know what I was at the beginning. So it's, yes, cannabinoid.
Okay. Endocannabinoid. Okay. Because I want to share about that because that's one thing that drew me in when Annie sent me that video, the TED Talk. I was like, holy moly, had no idea. That's so cool.
I know.
And I was just pretty much sold from that point on. And so, but yeah, wanted to make sure I said it right.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Nope. And I love that.
Say it again. Say it again.
Endocannabinoid.
Cannab. Okay.
So it's like cannabinoid. So
Cannab.
cannabinoid. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think
And
that's
she says it, sorry, she says it, if you watch the TED Talk, she breaks it
Yeah.
down and shows you how to pronounce it in that TED Talk too.
Okay. Yeah. Right. And yes, she does. She does.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just want to make sure I said it right when I was talking about it. So thank you.
We sound so smart when we say that, don't we? Because it's like,
I know.
it's a big word we never got to use. We never used before.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For sure.
But I love that because I think, if you think about something that's fascinating to you, it's going to be fascinating to other people, right? And I think, I mean, the ECS is just so cool, and some people aren't going to care about that. They're just not, but a lot of people are. So just share it for the ones that will, and then, I think it's awesome to educate on that. So good idea.
Right. And then when you are fascinated and passionate about it, then it just comes out in your energy even more.
Exactly.
And
yes.
People think it's even cooler than maybe it is.
Yeah.
But it is really cool.
It is. And I think what's neat about like what we're doing here with this business and these products and having the endocannabinoid system, it's like in other supplements, it was always like if you've sold anything else, it's like you couldn't really tell them why exactly this worked. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Where this is like,
Yeah.
we know why it works. So we have this system, it's a master system, it controls all the other systems. And when this system is in check, it fills in the gaps and we have receptors and then that everything flows. And so it's really, I think, cool because it's sort of seamless in how like it's just the explanation of it. And I think that sells it, in my opinion. It just makes sense because they're like, okay, this is cool. I don't know anything about this. And you get to be the first person to share it with them. So
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
it's awesome.
And I want to piggyback for that too. A question that I have is I have like in my stories, asking, sharing about the ECS system and then saying, drop me a link if you want more information about the ECS and whatnot, but I'm not getting any hits with that. Do you ever, is it ever okay to post that TED Talk on my news feed so that people can just access it? Because I think if I could get that out there, it might hook people in. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I would do it. I mean, I would share it. It doesn't hurt anything, and you can absolutely share anything, any of those third-party tools like that. I even sometimes will share it in my stories. Like if I'm talking about the endocannabinoid system and I just briefly break it down, like I just shared with you guys a second ago. But I'm like, hey, if this interests you and you have never heard of this and you want to know, and you're a geek, or you're a nerd like me and you want to know how the CBD works in the body, here I'm going to link, and I link it in my Instagram stories, and I just link the video. Like I'm going to link it here and I just call it TED Talk. I'm like, it's 15 minutes. Trust me, like it's going to blow your mind. So take a listen or whatever. So yeah, anywhere you want to share those things. I mean, I think that's great. I think um it's fantastic. So if you want to share it on your feed, go for it and see what happens. You never know who will watch it.
Because the other question I have, sorry, I feel like I'm
You're fine.
monopolizing here.
You're fine.
Because actually I was thinking about the ECS too, because when I saw that post that they're going to have a talk on Sunday, an opportunity call for medical professionals, because I'm a nurse and the majority of my friends are nurses. I
Yeah.
thought that I could somehow use that as a hook to see if I can get them to join that opportunity call.
Yeah, and you could do it a couple different ways. You could post about that call, and then you could link that in the comments. That's one way. And you may do a couple things. The cool thing is you have time before that call. So try it, right? Maybe do a post just about you as a nurse, and you're speaking to nurse-minded professionals like yourself, and you're talking to them, and maybe then you're going to say, like, you're just going to link it in the text. You can also link it in the text too and copy and paste it there and say, like, I highly encourage you to watch this. Like, we never learned about this in school or in college, whatever. There, do it one way. I don't do like, I'm probably going to share that graphic that's floating around, the one that like Allie shared about the practitioners, like the green one. I'll probably share that in my stories, but I don't share a lot of those because I feel like that on a feed is not going to necessarily gain much. People just are like, I don't even know who that is. I'm not going to stop. But if you do it on a story, people just are a little bit more engaged, I think, and tuned into stories, especially if you add something at the bottom, like all my nurse friends, like attention nurse friends, or I don't know how you want to hook them, but it's like speak to those people, right? But I think that it speaks more. I mean, and you can throw it up. I mean, who cares? Try it. I just feel like if I were to throw up that post of that picture with those women, I wouldn't get much, I don't think, on a post because people don't know and they don't care about that. They don't, it doesn't stop them in their tracks. I want to stop them in their tracks. And that's going to be a story about me because they're friends with me. They want to know why I think this or that or the other. So think about that as you're sharing, but you can kind of layer that in, and there's different ways to do that, and there's no wrong way. Okay, so I know we're kind of moving through this, but I want to kind of give you guys a couple more things to think on before we wrap it up. Okay, so the next thing, so we've done inviting, we've talked a lot about that, and we've talked about content. So hopefully you've got some ideas. Hopefully you're feeling inspired to just kind of put it out there and set kind of a plan for the week to start strong. Okay, the third thing I want to talk about is events. Really quickly, I want you guys to brainstorm like an event that you could host, whether it's in 2 weeks or 4 weeks, but somewhere within the next 4 weeks that you can incorporate some sort of an event. I think events are huge. I think they're so important. I think that they're just such a great way to get people together. A lot of people want to learn in person. They don't, they don't want to learn on social media because they want to see and feel and touch and try. And so it's like great for them to be, sometimes in person connection is huge. So I want you to think about where you could maybe host something. It might be at your house. It might be at, maybe you have a PC who's loving the products and she's fantastic and she loves everything and she's excited. And maybe you're going to ask her to host for you. Perfect. Like that's like the perfect case event scenario, in my opinion, is to get into their network. Like we know them, but do we know their family and friends, all of them, their coworkers? No, probably not. So how can we create an event? Online events are fine. They're not my favorite. I don't feel like they're as effective, but they're an option. But I'm talking like in-person event. What could that look like? What could you create? Right. And I'll never forget, I've shared this before, but I'll never forget that a leader from another company said something like this. She said, I create the events that I want to go to. So if I think of this event, right, and I think how cool would it be if there was an event and we incorporated this or that or the other, and of course it doesn't have to be elaborate, but she's like, if I like, I just create that event. Like I think of an event that I would want to go to and I create that. And it just always stuck out to me because like, I don't know, how cool, right? We're the creator and we get to create for this business, for our business, we get to create that. And so what could that look like for you? And it can be so simple. It does not have to be anything extravagant, but maybe you have a massage therapist friend, or maybe you have an esthetician, or you have a chiropractor friend, or you've got someone who is another small business and they would be open to you coming to kind of just talk about CBD and incorporate with maybe another like thing that they're getting when they come. Like I've seen people do candle pouring classes and incorporate that. Maybe someone who does that. Something that almost, again, you do not have to do this. It could be as simple as 5 people sitting around someone's kitchen table and like sharing these. But sometimes getting them in the door with another thing versus CBD is helpful. You know what I mean? Like if we're all getting together for a candle pouring class, but we're incorporating CBD, it's a little bit like they're there for kind of a couple reasons and it doesn't feel so. So anyway, think about that and kind of what you would want to do. And then kind of piggybacking off of that, think about samples. Who could you send a sample or two to this month still? And I don't think you need to sample yourself to death because it can get expensive. And that's not what we're here to do, is like spend a bunch of money, because there is a 30-day money back guarantee. So like they can literally like return it if it doesn't work. So I don't sample myself to death, but why not try it? Why not try a couple right this month, just to kind of like, I think samples work for you while you're doing other things, while you're posting content and you're reaching out and you're sharing. The samples are kind of working, like, because they tried them. Now you can follow up with them. You can tell them what to do. Then you follow up with them and boom, like it's done. They either want it or they don't. So let's take a few minutes. I want you to just think about that, like what that would look like, maybe, and what ideas you have. And I'd love to know if you guys want to share. And I think strategically putting an event at the end of the month, just throwing this out there, I think is really smart. So for those of you who are newer, we have what's called auto ship day. That's what we call it. It's not really like an official name, but on the 25th, every PC order that you've ever gotten from the 25th to the 30th or 31st goes out on the 25th. So no matter if that order was placed on the 29th, it's going to ship out. It's going to process on the 25th. Okay. So on the 25th, our month is like skyrocketing because everybody who is a PC under us within our team gets charged that day for their PC order. Okay. So this is great because now we can, I love this because we can end the month and we know on the 25th where we're at. So you know where you're at in your business and you can be like, all right, I want to hit this rank or I want to reach for this. Now I've got 5 days or 6 days or whatever to make this happen. So here's what I'm going to do. So if you think about it, we only have 5 or 6 days to anything else is going to be organic growth, right? It's going to come from an event or it's going to come from something. So you want to schedule strategically. It's not a bad idea to schedule something at the end of the month so that you have that volume adding into your month and kind of ending really strong. Just an idea to pack a couple maybe at the end of your month. If you're doing a couple small events, it doesn't take much to do that. So as far as samples go, so I mean, I keep it simple. Like I would send like a pain cream sample, which they have. You probably got those in your kit, Courtney. So they have those little samples. You can buy more in your back office. I would send one of those and I would send at the most 2 jellies, maybe a full spectrum and a broad, maybe 2 broad if they just want broad and that's their jam and they can't have THC or whatever. But I would give like 2 jellies at the most and a pain cream sample and I would call it a day. That's what I would do. Now, if you had the sleep jellies and sleep was a big issue for them, you could absolutely give them a sleep jelly. We don't have sample packs of those, but you could easily create your own sample pack with those in like a little tin container.
Hey, it's Dawn again. Question about you said about those PCs, like filling on the 25th. Explain that. Is it not just like from the day that they ordered?
So it's weird, but like, let's say they ordered on the 2nd. It's going to always,
Okay.
it's always going to go on the 2nd. Or they
Okay.
order on the 10th, it's always going to go on the 10th. If they order on the 15th, it's always going to go on the 15th. But if they order on the 25th or after of that month,
Oh,
then it's going to ship out on that day. I don't know why it does that, but again, I think it's really fantastic that it does that. So we kind of, we know like any other volume boost that we're going to have the rest of the month is going to be new growth, new
Oh.
properties.
So they don't do any PC orders after, like, they don't auto
Yeah.
renew after the 25th.
Right. No more auto ships like from the month before,
Yeah.
but new ones, yes, they will absolutely ship out new orders.
Okay.
You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. And then the
okay.
following month, if that person orders, let's say they order on the 27th.
Yeah.
It's going to ship out on the 25th.
Yes.
It's going to process on the 25th of the following month, even though that's not quite a month, but it's still just going to process that day. It's just the way they do it. I don't really know exactly why it's behind that, but
Do they send out emails, right, reminding you, hey, your replenishment order is so many days out?
yes, I
Right.
believe so. I don't know offhand. Maybe some of you know if you were PCs before you came in. I don't know offhand how many days, but I do know they get a reminder.
Okay. I was thinking, I think I did.
Yeah. I wanted to
Yeah.
mention the auto ship thing though, because I've talked to some people recently and they're like, I didn't, even like Lindsay was like, I didn't know about the auto ship thing. So I want to make that known because it's just a really something to keep in mind as you're building and as you're growing. And if you have several PCs that you've closed at the end of the month, you're going to have a boost on the 25th with your volume, which is cool. Okay. 5 days. Okay. I think so. I think that's what it is. If I remember right, it's like 5 days out. Yes.
Okay. I know this call is not about this, but can you, and maybe we can do it after 8 o'clock if you need to. How do you, on the replenishment order, I had to like end up canceling mine and starting it over because I couldn't figure out how to subtract items.
So when you click edit on your subscription, so
Yeah.
there's a place you can do like edit subscription or manage.
Yeah.
Manage subscription is what it says. So
Yes.
when you do that, it's kind of weird the way they could kind of do this better. But anyway, once you edit it, it's going to show you all the products in a list.
Correct.
Okay?
I've seen that.
Bring up all those products. You're going to have a plus. It's going to show you like a plus or a number 1 by all the products on the right. that you have in your auto ship. If
Okay.
you no longer want it, you hit the minus.
Okay.
If you want something else and add, then you add the plus and then save, and then it will show you what is in there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll
Yes.
figure that out. So I just canceled it and then redid it because
Yeah.
I had gotten some, I wanted to try some different stuff that
Yeah.
I didn't have.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. I know that's kind of confusing a little bit. Okay, so the last thing I want to really quickly go over, and then we'll kind of tie it up and let you guys go, is just the last thing I have is the follow up and closing. So this is key. We got to follow up, otherwise people slip through the cracks, and we just sort of lose people, right? And I think sometimes we don't know, like, how often should I follow, like how soon should I follow up? That's kind of a common question, and nobody has the answer to that. It's kind of like, I'm very persistent. I'm like, here's my perspective about if I'm having a conversation with someone. They asked me the information or they were interested, right? I gave them the information. It's my job to figure out if they want it or they don't. And the way to do that is to follow up with them and ask the questions, right? Like, hey, I just wanted to check back in. Like, I didn't know if you had a chance to look at the information I sent over. Like, I wanted to see, if you're thinking about maybe starting a product, question mark. It's very direct, but it's also not pushy. It's just like, I just need to know because it's fine if you're not interested, but I want to help you if you want to. And the only way that I will know to help you is if I ask you that question. And so don't be afraid to ask those questions and be persistent in that way, because that's going to get you an answer rather than, I don't know if they want to buy, like, I don't know if it's something I said, which is nothing you said, but like we just start to question it. And so if we just ask the question instead of wondering if we should ask the question, and I like to give them maybe like, it just kind of depends. Like, I have a couple people that are supposed to get back with me tonight. I'm not going to probably follow up with them tonight. I'm probably going to wait until in the morning unless I hear from them. But it's okay if I did, if I was like, hey, I'm around, like, I just wanted to check in, like, didn't know, no big deal, but I just want to let you know that I'm here in case you have a chance to look at look at it and we could maybe get your order placed. I kind of shared this the other day, but something that has been so effective for me in my business and conversations and just helping people get started and close is just helping them and guiding them through the order process, because we just think that they're going to get on and they're going to order and they're going to know what to do. And they just don't, even though it's not hard. They just need a little bit of guidance sometimes and like, hey, I'll help you. I have time. Do you want to get on and place your order? And I'm right here. Like, I'll watch for it and I'll be here if you have questions or if you run into whatever. Not that they're probably going to, but then sometimes I'm like, yeah, I do. I have a few minutes. I'll go ahead and do that. So the only way we're going to have follow-ups is if we send the invitations, right? Is if we create the conversations, we share the content, and that's the only way we're going to have the follow-ups. Because we don't have follow-ups if we aren't doing the first initial task. Yeah. Okay. So I would just reach out and I would just ask, like, hey, I don't want to bug you. It's no big deal if you're not interested, but I wanted to reach out to you again just because I didn't know. I know I had sent you that cart and I just didn't know what your thoughts were, as far as getting started with the products. Question mark. Like, did you have other questions, or, was there a certain like product you were thinking about starting with or that I could recommend? Obviously you already recommended it, but and I would just do that. And at the end of the day, if they are gonna just like ghost you and you followed up on the follow-up like twice, like, I give people about 3 times. Like, 3 times is my max. Like, I'm not gonna chase you. I'm not chasing you. I'm not chasing anybody. I'm here to help you and guide you through this if you want to order. But if you don't, I'm going to put my energy into somebody else. I'm going to create, I always say, new blood, new energy, create it, go find someone else to talk to. And they're probably going to come around, right? You're going to continue sharing content and showing up. They're going to come around. But it is vital to kind of, you'll get better at closing, and it's okay if you feel unsure or you're not as confident with it. It's going to take time and that's okay. It's just that like I said, people just, you would be surprised as to how many people just like need a little bit of urgency. And it's not that we're making them hurry, but like sometimes I'll say something like, because here's the deal. If they told you that they like thought this and this product would be great and this would be helpful, okay, perfect. Like, do you have a minute to order? Like, I can actually walk you through it. Boom. And most likely they're gonna be like, yeah, I do. Hold on. Yes, whatever. Um, or sometimes I'll say, I use this a lot and it works. Like I'll say, if you order today, you'll probably have your stuff by Saturday. And they're like, okay, because it just creates that urgency of like, I mean, there's no hurry, but it shows them that like, do they want to get started? The product's going to be here Saturday, if we want to get it done. And if they want to get started to feel better, then they're going to, that's going to kind of inspire them to do that. They just need a little boost sometimes. And you sometimes with just some verbiage like that, it helps get them moving. Okay, so does anyone have any other questions? I know we kind of went through a lot of stuff, covered a lot of stuff, but those are the most important things that I think that you can constantly, consistently be thinking about in your business each day. And you don't have to do all those things every single day, but think if you did, two of those things every single day. And you even if you did two and then the next day you did the other two, and the two and the whatever. And then think of how many conversations you would kind of have in your funnel. If you think about a funnel and you think about the conversations we have conversations coming in. We always want conversations coming in. And if we're not posting and we're not creating that, it's not going to happen. So we want to keep having those come in because we're going to have conversations going out because we're going to have people that ghost us and we're like, okay, you were interested, but now you're ghosting us. Okay, that's fine. So they're out, right? You're going to have people that buy from you. Okay, they bought, so they're out for now. Now we're going to let them use their product. So we've got to continuously have these new ones coming in, and it's important to have like 5 to 10 conversations. I say 15 depending on what your goals are, going on all the time, because that's going to give you a really good result. So, here's to having all the conversations this week and doing something fun this week and having fun with what you're creating and putting it out there. Trust yourself that you have so much value and that we just have to be courageous and put it out there. And I promise you that you're going to get a sign, whether it's a message from someone or it's something basically reinforcing that someone needed to hear your message. And sometimes we need those because sometimes it just feels like we're on an island all alone and we're speaking and no one's listening. And we've all been there, and that's no fun and it is discouraging. But hang in there and keep just putting it out there. And that's why I say, like, that's why it's like we're doing some samples and maybe we're doing an event and then we're putting posts up and we're sharing stories, and we're not just relying on one thing to build this business, right? Or to get the word out. We're relying on multiple things. And that's when you can really, that's kind of the full package deal. And that's when you can really start growing because you have multiple pieces to this puzzle kind of working with you, for you. So thank you so much, you guys. I hope that was good. I'm glad. I hope that was inspiring and helpful for you guys. Thank you for being here. Really excited to continue these calls and in the month strong, which we're only at, I can't believe it's already the 19th, but anyways, feel free to message me after this too, if you guys have extra questions. So thank you all so much. I'll talk to you soon. You're welcome. Bye.